What's going on? Welcome in. We're going to talk Sorare for the weekend. Let's start previewing what's going to go down and what. I'm doing a lot of shaking today, and I think it's shake the table, shake the camera. Not an earthquake, but we're gonna break down what's going on this weekend, what the best matchups are for you, and you'll do with that what you want. Let me jump in here. We've got a few minutes to kind of warm up. Obviously, things in the Sorare community are a little wild right now. And if I have time, we'll get into that towards the end. I know that we're still kind of trying to figure some things out. Running up against that Jersey stream we did yesterday, 5 hours of uninterrupted YouTube stream for the Jersey campaign that Sorare MLB ran yesterday. It looked like, by all intents and purposes, it was very successful in regards to, it moved the needle. People were excited about it. There were a ton of instant buys. I saw guys paying $20 for random scrubs for collection score. I saw I was able to pick up a few cards. If you watch the stream, you saw that. I picked up a few more in the evening. I didn't get very lucky with the cards that I did receive. Free, I think I received like Reed Detmers, Max Schumann, just a bunch of T5s. But as I record this, it is Thursday afternoon right now in Arizona. It's 4 o'clock, a little after 4 o'clock. So let's get to it. Let's run through what we typically do if this is your first time kind of running through with me. Is I'm just going to run through what we have going on in regards to matchups. Who are the best matchups? The way I normally grade it is 1 through 5. Everybody's got their own grading system, their own projection system. But the way I look at it is kind of 1 through 5. Who's got the softest matchups? So with that being said, let's jump right in. Athletics are going to be at home against the White Sox. The Athletics are going to be fantastic starts, all of them. Rooker, Butler, Wilson, Soderstrom. I'd probably hesitate about Langoliers just because he catches a lot. And the A's just called Kurtz up, so DH opportunities are going to be a little interesting. But if you've got A's, you're playing your A's. Absolutely. I would say whatever level you play at, they are on a rating scale, I would say they're all must plays. Like a 5 is a must play, a 1 is a must sit, 3 is probably like, hey, if it's your stud. But I would say if you have any good players on the Athletics, you are absolutely getting them into a lineup this week. Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks are a little tricky this week because you do have Chris Sale. Best couple Diamondbacks are going to be Naylor and they're going to be Carroll, who are left-handed hitters, facing up against Sale the first day. Now, the way I look at this is you've only got 3 games on the weekend. I think we all know that. But anytime I see a stud who's a potential shutdown, then that automatically makes me think, if I start this guy, I've got to be thinking he's only playing 2 games. Can he put up as many points in 2 games as somebody else is going to put up in 3 games? So when I look at the Diamondbacks and I've got Naylor and I've got Carroll, I see Chris Sale there, and not only is he a stud, but he's a lefty. That's going to make me hesitant. So Holmes is actually throwing really well. Kenny Powers has thrown fantastic. Schwellenbach was roughed up a little bit in his last start, but he's still an absolute stud. I would not feel very comfortable starting Diamondbacks this week. I would start Carroll because it's multi-entry. So I would still find a place to use Carroll, but it's a pretty rough week. The Braves, who seem to almost always get their offense going, but just not quite. And obviously having Murphy back seems to have kind of invigorated it a little bit. Ozuna was out. Now he's back. You had Strider back, and then he had a little hammy issue, so he's on the IL right now. And it seems like the Braves are close. I don't know if they're there, but they're really close. So I don't love the Braves this week. You've got Zach Gallen, who's obviously been hit or miss. And you've got Merrill Kelly, who's been pretty solid this year so far, and then is going to throw. So I don't love my Braves, but I don't hate them. Probably looking at them right around like a 3 range, right in a mid-range. Baltimore obviously has not been able to figure it out. They did this at the end of last year. It was extremely frustrating because the first half of the year, Gunnar was going crazy. Westy was playing well. And now, and then the second half of the year, it was like they couldn't get out of their way. And they're still in that phase. So they're playing I've got the game on right now. The Orioles are playing the Nats. They're losing 1-0 in the second. Mackenzie Gore is throwing for the Nats today. But the Orioles have Skubal on Sunday. Mize has looked good. Job has looked good. Skubal has looked good. He hasn't looked like 2024 Skubal yet. And he's a lefty, so I get pretty hesitant about somebody like Gunnar Henderson. I could go with Westy, but also keep in mind it's in Detroit. And Detroit's a big ballpark. So I'm going to say the Orioles are probably like a grade 2 for me. I don't love it, but if I'm put in a position where I need to start Gunnar, I will. But I'm probably saving those guys for my daily lineups. I'm not filling in, or maybe even my challenger lineups. Red Sox are going to Cleveland. We just saw what the Red Sox did against the White Sox, which was pretty miserable. And we saw what they did against Seattle, which was also not very impressive. Alex Bregman's hitting the ball well, but outside of that, I don't really trust any of these guys. With that being said, they have soft matchups. They do have Logan Allen, who's a lefty, not a power lefty, so I'd feel comfortable with Devers and Duran. Also feel comfortable with Bregman. Story, little hit or miss. Guy was red hot and kind of cooled down a little bit this week. Outside of that, I think it's kind of hit or miss. But Cleveland's a fair ballpark, and the pitching matchups aren't phenomenal. They're not going to see Bybee. So I would probably look at them like a 3.5 to a 4 for this week. The Cubs, and by the way, and it's not because Boston is doing anything. It's that they have the potential to do something. Cubs obviously been hitting the cover off the ball, but they're going into Philly. Taijuan Walker's been pitching decent. You've got Luzardo, who's been pitching well, and Nola, who has not been pitching great. The Cubs have been raking, though. So I still like Happ. I still like Tucker. PCA has really found his stride. I would say for the most part, we don't know what's up with Suzuki yet because that wrist injury popped up again. Really wish that guy would just stay healthy. But for the most part, those Cubs guys are going to be solid. I would not be concerned about starting them. You're not facing Wheeler. You're not facing Sanchez. White Sox are going to be in Sacramento. We've seen that the ballpark is hitter-friendly. The problem is you probably just don't have a lot of White Sox to play, right? You've got Luis Robert. Maybe you've got Andrew Vaughn. I know Benintendi has been hitting well, but maybe that's a really tough spot. 2 righties, 1 lefty. I'm still looking at Luis Robert. He just seems so uninterested. That's my problem. I think Luis Robert has all the talent in the world, but he seems so uninterested in playing for the White Sox right now. But he's got a great matchup, and there's no reason he shouldn't do well. Okay, Reds. Let me get a drink. Reds are going to be in Colorado. That means you start everybody. I guess all hands on deck, right? So McLean, Ellie De La Cruz, Friedel, Hayes, Marte. I mean, you're rolling out every Red you can. Now, just because the Reds are in Colorado doesn't mean, as we're going to touch on the Rockies right now, it doesn't mean that we're going to also start all of our Rockies. But because they are going to face Hunter Green, But the Rockies also have just not shown that they can hit the ball very well, even at home. And that's a major concern. Bretton Doyle, probably the only Rocky I'm going to feel comfortable starting. They do face Hunter Green. Being in Colorado should make him somewhat human. We did see Hunter Green exposed a little bit last weekend against Baltimore, which is slightly odd, but that's okay. But Doyle's really the only Rocky I feel comfortable about this week. B Green, he says Ellie is the best player of the week. I think that's true. That's likely your best bet. Switch hitter, going to Colorado. It's probably going to run like crazy. I have not looked at weather. I don't typically look at weather when I do these, but obviously check the weather. We did skip over Cleveland, then we get back to playing Boston. Walker Buehler was great his last time out. Cleveland does a great job of not striking out very much, so they're not typically a great start against if you've got the pitcher. But I like guys like Kwan this week. I like Manzardo this week. You're facing 3 righties. You're at home. Obviously, the beauty of being on the road is you're going to get that top of the ninth. When you're at home, it's a little different, but I do like J. Ram should be fantastic. Kwan, Manzardo, all solid starts. Detroit. They're facing Baltimore. The only thing that's more sad than the Baltimore lineup's inability to hit is the Baltimore pitching. It is just extremely unimpressive. And it makes me sad because the lineup should be so good. And the GM has spoiled it with this terrible rotation. And I understand that Grayson's hurt. But even without Grayson, they just have no depth. It's just a bunch of number 5 guys. And Eflin and Morton are basically dust at this point. Dean Kramer, I love Dean, great guy, but very hittable. The Tigers are going to face 3 righties this week, 3 very hittable righties, which means Kerry Carpenter looks good. I would say this is a 5. The problem is the Tigers just don't have any studs. Riley Green just has not made that jump yet. But I love Riley Green this week. Carpenter's solid. If you've got Torque, you're likely using him. But they should score a lot of runs. Absolutely. Now, it is at home, but at the end of the day, Baltimore can't pitch. Houston's going to go to Kansas City. They're going to face Lugo, Waka, and Bubic. Bubic has been fantastic this year so far. Lugo has started to regress a little bit. I don't know if it's age, if it's innings, but he's definitely starting to slow down a little bit. Waka still seems like he's Waka. Gives you a decent 5 innings, but I'm not going to hesitate about starting any Astros this week. So the challenge with the Astros is very similar. It's a theme. We have a lot of offenses that are underperforming. Christian Walker looks like he's starting to turn that corner. We're waiting on Yordan Alvarez to wake up. He's not the guy that we all expect him to be right now. But I wouldn't. I would grade the Astros like a 3. I like the color pictures. I don't know what that means. DJ Local, welcome in. I don't know what I like the color pictures means. If you're talking about the numbers right here, that's cool. That's something Fantasy Pros does. I don't typically pay too much attention to this number because it encompasses the entire week. Whereas with So Rare, we're just focusing on Monday through Thursday or Friday through Sunday. So that's kind of cool. A little different than the chart that I typically use for myself. But it's a good gauge, especially if you are playing traditional fantasy. All right, Kansas City. I guess the other side of the field in the other dugout. Kansas City is going to face Houston. Wisniewski's been solid. He's a nice play if you've got that relief pitcher card. The challenge with Kansas City is you have Witt and then everybody else. And Vinny hasn't been able to step up. Salvi looks like he's starting to age. Hunter Brown looks like a great start, except he's the Sunday start, which always makes you a little nervous. If you're Houston, though, you do have to keep in mind that Kansas City is playing 5 games in 4 days. So there is going to be a little bit of that. I'm not sure if they play on Monday. We could take a quick look. But they're going to – Houston's ideally going to run into a game with Lugo pitching, and the Royals have ran through a bunch of their bullpen guys the day before. And that's gonna hurt Kansas City's bullpen for that series. Just keep that in mind when you're looking at Altuve. And I know Jeremy Pena has been on fire. And Isaac Paredes. So we'll see. Those 5 guys are all very playable this week. The Angels are going to go to Minnesota. They're going to face Ryan and Ober, both really solid starters. Richardson, more of a scrub. LA, I mean, you're basically just looking at Trout and Ward. They're solid starts. I'd grade them more like a 3 than anything else. Dodgers are going to be at home at Pittsburgh. They're coming off 2 days rest, by the way, so their bullpen is good to go. Skeens is going to pitch on Friday, and then you have Keller and Falter. The challenge here is it's not like you're ever going to bench Ohtani, right? Like you're just not going to bench Ohtani. You're just not going to bench Betts. You kind of take your chances against Skeens. They have such a veteran lineup that you have to be mindful of the fact that they're going to wear a pitcher out. So even the best pitchers are going to struggle because the Dodgers are going to put together so many good at-bats that they're going to try to work Skeens' pitch count. It's like the late 90s Yankees. They would just wear guys down with pitch counts. So I think Skeens is effective until he's not in the game anymore, and then the Pittsburgh bullpen is not great. So if you have your Dodgers, you're still playing them. I don't necessarily I think if it's a different matchup, then I'm probably looking at going I've only really got 2 games there, but you're still going to start Ohtani. You're still going to start Betts. There's so many Dodgers, right? Edman, Teo, Freeman, even Muncy sneaks in there once in a while. But I definitely wouldn't start Muncy this week. Doesn't mean he can't do something against Keller, but facing the lefty, I wouldn't worry about that as much with a guy like Freeman or Ohtani. But I definitely wouldn't. I'd downgrade Muncy. All right, Marlins. Tough matchups. Are you starting any Marlins anyway? Do you even have any Marlins to start? Not that there's not a few guys like Wagaman and Mervis that you may have, but no, you're not starting those guys. And you're at Seattle. And I mean, if you've got Logan Gilbert, you're pumped right now because he's your number 1 pitcher right now going into the weekend. And if you got Munoz, even better. All right, Milwaukee. Milwaukee is wrapping up. They just wrapped up with the Giants in San Francisco. They're going to stay on the road. 3 games in St. Louis, 2 games that are, I want to say soft starters. St. Louis has surprisingly been a little gritty, gutty team this year. I mean, am I still starting Yelich, who's kind of scuffling? Terang has been playing well. Churio's been interesting. Definitely a better start than last year. Contreras got a day off today, so he should be rested and ready to go. So it really comes down to Sonny Gray, who's been lights out. Sonny Gray has been really good so far. So I would hesitate on the Brewers. I'd probably put the Brewers at more like a 3 start because you have 2 softs, but that's all you really have are 2 softs. And nobody's crushing on that team enough, besides potentially Terang, that you're going to make that jump. Minnesota's going to play the Angels. They've got Kikuchi in the middle, Hendricks and Soriano. Hendricks is soft. Soriano just has location issues. Challenge is you don't have a lot of studs on the Twins, right? I mean, you could roll the dice with Buxton, but At some point, he is going to take some more days off here. Correa, Walner's on the IL. Gosh, you're really digging if you're trying to place Twins in there. Mets are going to be Washington. Mets are on fire right now. They've got 3 soft starts, 2 righties and a lefty. You're starting every Met you have this week in Washington. Absolutely every Met. Check the weather, but there's no reason if you've got any of those top 5 guys. I know Vientos is struggling, but he's going to hit at some point. We just don't know when. I'm not going to – keep in mind, you need to have priorities. You're not going to, start Vientos over J-Ram. But when you're looking at your stack and it's Alonso, Lindor, Soto, potentially Nimmo, and Vientos, yeah, you're starting all those Mets. Yankees are going to be in Toronto. Toronto's pitching's been pretty good. Judge normally hits Gossman extremely well for some odd reason, but Barrios, Gossman, and Bassett have been great. The Yankees' offense, high-scoring offense in the league, though. You're still starting, and they're at home, by the way. So you're still starting Judge. Obviously, you always start Judge. I'd still feel comfortable with Volpe. You can look at Bellinger against 3 righties, assuming Bellinger is in decent shape. Depends on your depth, but I would definitely consider Bellinger just because you're facing 3 righties this weekend. Philadelphia is going to be at Chicago. Brown and Talion are going to throw. I'm not worried about those guys at all. We could see, and by the way, keep in mind, even though the Cubs are getting 2 days off, the Dodgers wore them out. So a great 2-game series, but we might see the same type of series against the Phillies. The Phillies looked great last weekend. They struggled against some good pitching in New York this week. They're going to bounce back. They're going to be angry. I think a Philly stack is going to be really awesome this week. And you're facing 3 righties, so you know what that means. So Stott's going to be leading off every game, FYI. And then you've got Harper and Schwab's. Pirates are going to be in LA. Yamamoto, Roki, and Glasnow, assuming Glasnow doesn't get pushed. If you do have Glasnow, just save him for your daily. You don't want to wreck your lineup, and there's just no guarantee he's going to start there. If you have a Pirate, this is probably a good time for them to take a break. O'Neal Cruz, Brian Reynolds, just have a seat. San Diego's going to go back home after this rough road trip. Their offense is abysmal right now. They're going to face Boz, Pepiot, and Lytle. Not terribly worried about the Tampa Bay pitching. The problem is there's really no supporting cast right now. All you have is Tatis and Machado. Machado's struggling. Xander's hitting okay, but he's now turned into more of a punch-and-shooty hitter. And Tatis is leading off. And then there's nothing. And Arise is on 7-day IL for concussion protocol. And you have a bunch of AARP guys. So Maldonado, Diaz, Hayward. Ben Sheets was hitting second. That's how terrible this lineup is right now. So, yes, if you have Tatis, you're starting him. If you have Machado, maybe. If you have Xander, you probably don't have a chance to win anyway. Okay, Giants. Giants have been hitting well. So they're facing Texas. Texas is going to be coming from Sacramento over to San Francisco. Sacramento is not necessarily the Bay Area, but it is Northern California. And the Giants are solid starts. Texas pitched decent. But you got Corbin at some point. Corbin's actually pitched a lot better than he did at Washington so far. But I'm not worried about it. Now, the challenge is I'm not really big on San Francisco's offense, period. So, are there any guys that you really love in there that you're gonna play? I like Fitzgerald, but he's the 9-hitter at home. It's not great. Like Ramos could be that guy. Chapman hit his 5th home run today, so maybe Chappie. but I don't love the pitching matchups either. I'm probably giving the Giants like a 2.5 or a 3 matchup. Seattle is fortunate enough that they're going to dodge Crochet. At the end of the day, Seattle has trouble hitting at home. Rosarena has been solid, though. I would not shy away from a Rosarena. Cal Raleigh tends to hit really well at home. Mad Max, the new Mad Max Meyer, is going to be pitching in Seattle. That should be a great matchup. If you have Meyer, likely save him for your daily, just because he's pitching on Sunday. But Seattle does have trouble hitting. Julio should be a solid matchup. Just keep in mind, guys like Raleigh, Rosarena, and Julio, even though they have great matchups, they do struggle to hit at home. So you're likely not going to put them in your number 1 spot, but potentially your 2 or your 3. St. Louis is going to face Milwaukee. They've got pretty soft pitching this week. You've got 2 righties and a lefty. Newbar should be solid if Donovan's healthy and he's got that rib issue. Contreras needs to get it together at some point, right? He's a hell of a hitter, and he just hasn't gotten it going. So I do like Contreras, but the Cardinals should definitely put up some runs this weekend. Tampa Bay is going to face San Diego in San Diego. Not an easy place to hit. Plus, you're going to face King and Cease. Vasquez is Jekyll and Hyde, but I would not start any of my Rays. I don't have any Rays, but if I did have any, I wouldn't start them. Caminero, Diaz, those guys I'm just sitting them. The Rangers are going to be in San Francisco. Tough place to hit, but you've got Verlander and Hicks, very hittable guys. Ray still isn't the same guy he was before. Not sure he'll ever be, but Wyatt Langford has been fantastic so far coming back from the IL, and he was fantastic before he hit the IL. Looks like he's just going to have a monster year. I love Langford. And Garcia's kind of starting to figure some things out. Simeon's swinging well. That could be interesting. Seager's hurt. So I don't know if Seager's day-to-day or if they threw Seager on the IL. But either way, I mean, unless you're digging deep here and you want like Josh Smith. But otherwise, the Rangers should be a solid play in San Francisco. Not a great play. I'd label them like a 3. Toronto is going to go to New York. They're going to face Carrasco, who's not great. Fried, who was fantastic in his last outing, and then Clark Schmidt. I'm not. The problem is Toronto has trouble hitting. So at the end of the day, when I look at this Toronto lineup, and I think, okay, is this when Vladdy gets it going? Vladdy does typically hit against the Yankees well. Is he going to be the only one, though? Is Santander finally going to wake up? Is Bo going to start getting more extra base hits? Is he going to start running more? Those are big ifs. And if, speaking of ifs, if Toronto's down 6-1 in the 7th inning of these games, that's not necessarily going to lend to a lot of offense. So just keep that in mind. We'll wrap it up with Washington. They're going to be at home against the Mets. Senga's been outstanding. Holmes and McGill. I'm just not quite sold on McGill yet. I feel like Holmes is a bit hit or miss. I'm not sold on McGill, but he's getting close. So I really like Peterson. I'm sold on Peterson, but I'm just not there on McGill yet. We'll have to see what happens. But for the most part, I think we're in a position with the Nats where I'm going to be hesitant to start guys like Wood, to start guys like Abrams just came back, like literally just came back. Cruz is getting hot. Are you going to start him yet? Probably not. Wood is like the guy, so I'm a little hesitant, but he is facing 3 righties. Might struggle against Senga, though. I like Wood, just not as your primary guy. So anyway, we'll leave it at that. So that is, are we good? Yeah, we're good. Okay. Now, for those of you who know that we did a stream yesterday, and the Jersey stream was fantastic. I thought it was very well done by the team at Sorare MLB. I was not planning on streaming as long as I did, but we had, I think almost 50 people jumped in here. So, there's definitely interest in it. And I think what they did was well done. So, I think it's important to point out when the team does things well, because it's easy to point out the stuff they're not doing so great. But when they do nail it, we should definitely give them some credit. The challenge that the team is dealing with, and that we as a community are also dealing with, I'm going to switch screens here, is there's been some challenges in regards to, I guess, coding from the triple play promo that went south. That was supposed to reward 10% and only rewarded 5%. And then the compensation for that was only to people who bought 20, or only up until somebody bought 21 cards. So that it didn't necessarily right the wrong. And then you had the glitch with the hacking on essence values of common cards, which is important because common cards are used in limited all-star. I mean, I'm not a fan of that, but I don't play limited. I understand what they're trying to do with it, but either way, we just disagree on that. And with the introduction of dailies this year, I think the challenge is there's been this, like a gross manipulation of the system by some of the users. And it's really unfortunate. Obviously I was gone last year. Give me a second here. Okay. I had a random text and then a call from New York for some reason. I think that the challenge here is, I don't know if the team is shorthanded. I was gone for a year. So I don't know if the team is shorthanded. I don't know if it's just gross incompetence. I don't know if some people left and they've left the back door open. I don't know if we have a FanDuel DraftKings situation where people internally are accessing, because employees can't play. We don't know that we don't have employees in France who are accessing lineups after lock and changing lineups. What we do know, what we found out today, we found out on Tuesday. I was really bothered about this on Tuesday. So bothered that I had trouble sleeping. And that is not normal for me. But I had trouble sleeping, and this was Monday, actually. So I won Daily Derby for Rare on Monday. And I noticed that the 3 accounts behind me all had only classic cards. And it bothered me because there's been a lot of chatter about people cheating. And I thought, man, this is terrible for the guy who finished 5th, and he should have finished 2nd. That's not right. And well, blatantly, it's manipulation of the system. And you cannot run a daily fantasy game or a gambling site or whatever we want to call it and not have transparency and regulation be paramount at all times. So, my concern was, hey, did this guy get screwed? And how many times have I gotten screwed? Is this happening on the dailies? Is it happening on the bi-weeklies too? I finished in 4th place a week back. Did I get cheated out of a podium? Like, what happened here? So it bothered me so much that I went and I broke down an absurd amount of numbers. So, and what I essentially did is I went through, I did a twice over on the amount of energy being used by questionable accounts. And I shouldn't say questionable, it's not fair, because I was looking at a lot of different people, and some of which I am very familiar with, and some of which I'd never seen before, and they don't have a PFP or whatnot. So I was taking a look at it, and it's like you try to have the best intentions, because you hope that your fellow managers, your competitors, that you're all playing on the same level. But the reality of it is, and a buddy of mine was saying today, like, it's a gambling site. People are going to constantly try to find ways to cheat. That's how it works. I mean, it is what it is. There are going to be people who are part of the community who have no problem with collusion, who have no problem hacking a system, who have no problem cheating and manipulating the system to their financial benefit. I know of a few of them. And, part of the challenge is when it affects an even playing field, then you have now compromised the entire project, because now the community just can't trust you anymore. So, like I said, it bothered me enough that I went through and I charted the amount of energy that was being used by about 40 different players that were playing Daily Rare. And after I did that, I went through the majority of their accounts and went through their game weeks, their bi-weeklies. So I could take a look and see how much energy they had accumulated, how much energy they used, and see if the numbers were adding up. Okay, did they buy cards during the triple play promo, so they would have had extra energy? Did they not? Did they have they been accumulating a lot of energy? Like the biggest user of energy is a guy that most of you are probably familiar with. His name is Shaka Bra. And I've seen Shaka Bra forever, mostly because, he's got a real distinct PFP with giving a Shaka hand signal. And I was like, oh man, this sucks. I've seen Shaka forever. And I've never, I don't recall ever talking with him or having any dealings with him, but you just hate to see that. Well, when I went through his bi-weeklies, what I found is that he only plays Challenger. And he only plays Challenger and then takes that energy and then plays daily. Now, I don't agree with that strategy, but there's no penalty for having a bad strategy. You're not doing anything wrong. And to him, maybe that's awesome. Maybe he really enjoys playing the daily and he wants to use those cards to do it. And that's absolutely on him and good for him. And what I found is that there are multiple managers that play the game like that. They have old cards, they just play Challenger, and then they just play dailies. So no problem, no harm, no foul, right? And then I found a couple users that were pretty questionable. And I guess it's not going to hurt if I just start calling people out, right? So I found David Alexandre, whose use was questionable. There's an account that was really close, and it's called Thad Schwebke. And Thad, if you get wind of this, I'm not throwing you under the bus. When I ran the numbers, they did look pretty close, but the last two. So what I'm also looking for is not just how much energy someone used, but I was also looking at the frequency. Have they started only using classic cards recently? And unfortunately, Thab's account it falls in line with that. Now, it's not completely in line. Don't get me wrong. It's fairly inconsistent, which is great. You want to see the inconsistencies because it shows you that manager is playing in Challenger, earning energy, and then using it. But it's just something to keep an eye on. So once again, not throwing you under the bus, that I just noticed. But I looked at everybody. I mean, I looked at Moneyball projections. I looked at Marlboro Man. I looked at Clip. Guys who are high users of energy in daily games. I looked at Saturno. I mean, guys that most of us, if we're in the marketplace, we see these names all the time. And I didn't see any wrongdoing. I saw a couple accounts that were a little off. One is Hudson River. The numbers didn't really pan out. They were close, but there was some really odd inconsistencies with how he was using his energy. I'm sure if we talk to him, there could be a plausible reason. But like I said, there were a few guys. OG Rego, he had some inconsistencies. Everything looked pretty good on his. This guy named Shit Show, recently, he kind of came out of nowhere and he's been using a ton of energy every single game week, every single daily. For the last 4 days, he's been using either 6 or 7 players. So that's a little questionable. But, I ran through most of the people I deleted off this list. But Miss Fireballs, Grayson Bombers, Oliver Sunday, JJ21, Cobcorn, Octopus Baseball. I mean, I ran through a ton of managers, and they were all solid. When I looked, the numbers made sense. They were close, like within a margin of error. But David Alexandre, not within a margin of error at all. In fact, when I ran the numbers, he was about negative 2,000 energy. So I started to look. So of course I have a spreadsheet for this, right? So I shared the spreadsheet in my OG Discord, and we've got a lot of really sharp guys in there, guys that are sharper than I am, and we start deducing some information here. The challenge is I got all this information and I shared it with Damien and John. And I said, hey guys, I didn't want to put this out like on the Sorare Discord or on Twitter, but I did all the research. I know everybody's really frustrated. I'm very concerned about the viability of Sorare MLB and if it's been compromised in the integrity of the game. And is this energy impacting other areas as well? So I did this on Tuesday. John acknowledged it. He was great. Like I said, I love John. I really like Damien. I think Damien's great. And Damien, if you were to watch this, I want you to know, you are part of the reason I came back, because I felt like Sorare finally having someone with some business acumen at the helm gave me a little confidence that it would be ran differently. And by the way, I have to tell you, the majority of the challenges that we're running into are not operational challenges. They're tech challenges. So I don't know if some back doors were left open. I don't know if things just weren't coded properly. I don't know if the coding team is in France. I believe all the coding is in France now. So that could obviously be part of the problem as well. But either way, I'm not privy to this information. And honestly, I don't need to be. But I did reach out to them, and I was given some assurances that this would be addressed. It would be looked into. Push come to shove, that was Tuesday. Apparently it was not addressed. And Wednesday night, David Alexandre won Rare Daily. And I was pissed. I was absolutely pissed. I spent 6 hours on this damn spreadsheet for these guys because it seemed like they just didn't have the manpower and weren't going to take the personal time from their schedules to do it. But they also don't play the game like we do. So maybe it doesn't matter to them. I don't know that they've necessarily worked in the gambling arena. So they don't understand the urgency of having your game compromised and how that kills the integrity and the trust in the community. You know, to them, maybe they think it's just hey, you collect cards and you play, no big deal. But it's not that. I mean, it is more or less, it's daily fantasy sports. It is just like playing DraftKings. It's just like playing Rainmakers. It's no different. So I was pretty pissed. And I'll be honest, I wrote Nicholas a letter and scathing. And I said, this needs to be addressed. The community needs to be addressed. And you guys need to, you can't continue to do this because essentially Sorare, by allowing people to continue to cheat, is becoming complicit. And that is a huge problem. So we now have compounding problems. So today, I wrote the email. Damien sent me a message. I appreciate it. I did not respond to Damien just because I was pissed off and I wanted to respond to him in a positive way. And I just haven't yet. But I went in my Discord, in the OG Discord, and I said, you know what, guys, I think something's off. It's not just that these guys are stealing energy and cheating. They're winning way too much. And I consider myself really good at this. And I'm winning. I've won Derby twice. I have 3 podiums and a 4th place over the span of, what has it been? Like 3 weeks. So I'm not saying I'm the best, but I feel like I'm pretty good. Like, you have to have the cards. So, actually being able to fill out 8 lineups and then still have cards for daily, it does make it pretty tough. Unless, of course, you're not playing the other lineups and you're just playing daily. You ideally would be able to put together a chalk lineup every day. Either way, I was like, this dude is way too good at this. Because if you're this good, you should be crushing on FanDuel or DraftKings or somewhere else. And you're not going to screw around and play dailies on Sorare. I mean, if you're this good, and when I say this good, he is podiumed 8 of the last 16 days. That is absurd. That is amazing. And so I posed the question. I said, you know what? Would it surprise everyone if he was able to swap his lineup? And I'm probably wasn't the first person to think about this. But at least in my Discord and when I live in my little space, I brought it up, and all of a sudden wheels started spinning. And my understanding is that Robbie went and took some screen caps of his not David Alexandre's, but the other manager who's been doing this unlimited, took some screen caps of his lineups after some of the games locked, and then took another screen cap after. Lo and behold, he was able to swap out players, and he's been swapping out players, and that's how these guys are winning. They're basically playing early games, then keeping certain scores, swapping out players who didn't perform well, and building on those scores. So it's almost like they're playing best ball with their collection, which is nuts. And it makes you wonder, like, how are you not winning every time? But obviously they podiumed 8 out of 16 times. They're probably not winning on days when the games all start like within that 3-hour time frame. But on a day like today, where you have scattered starts, it's probably considerably easier for them to be able to win, because they're going, oh, this guy only scored 2 points. I have a stud I can play later. Let me swap him. And they're basically just running out guys every stage until they get to the end of the day. And then boom, wow, look, my team scored 160 points again today. That's awesome. That's crazy. And on the rare side, we don't get great rewards. I mean, you win first place, it's a tier 3. That's not exciting. So it's exciting to win, and my tier 3s have been respectable, my first place tier 3s. But if you win unlimited, you get a star card. Like I saw the guy 2 days ago win a judge, and that actually has a pretty big impact. I mean, and although honestly, just FYI to the guys at Sorare, the fact that people can win better cards that are more valuable playing limited daily than playing rare daily is kind of off. But anyway, we can get into that another time. Okay, so what I wanted to do, and you guys are looking at my lineup right now. I'm going to sacrifice my lineup right now to see if I can do the hack. Taylor figured out how to do the hack earlier. So I've got this Jersey day in the swing. I really don't care about swing. What am I going to do? Win 50 XP? I mean, my team's got 7 points right now, so probably not anything. So what I'm going to try to do is figure out how to do the swap and see if I can actually make it work right now. I'm not great at this, so I'm probably going to screw it up, but let's at least see what happens. So he told me I needed to list this player for sale. Okay, so it's going to kill my lineup. It says I can't. Oh, hold on. There we go. Yeah, I'm going to list it at $100 so nobody buys it. Okay, now I'm going to acknowledge that it's going to kill my lineup. Of course, it's going to ask me for this, so Okay, so my card's listed for sale. Let's go back to the lineup. So my lineup should be kind of grayed out, right? Now, Taylor said I can go in and I can hit edit lineup and I can just drop another guy in there. So I can say, I got to pull up the Diamondbacks lineup real quick. Anyway, that's taking too long. Let me just put Alek Thomas in here, and I'm going to save this lineup. So I've got 0 points, and I'm in 0th place. What we're going to do, so everybody saw it, I was able to update the lineup. So that seems to be the hack, right? What we're going to find out is if my team is still able to accumulate points. I can't, now in theory, I can't see the leaderboard. Let me check the app and see if I can still see the leaderboard. So for those of you who didn't know, there's a Sorare app. Looks like this. All right, so my lineup is live, just like it is as we see here. Everything is zeroed out. So what we're going to do is we're going to find out. Obviously, we're not going to find out during the stream because I'm going to cancel it. I'm going to cut it off. But let's find out if at the end of the day, if I'm still at 0 and I basically just punted the lineup, or if the hack works and all of a sudden I end up with more points. I don't have really anybody else I can swap out, unfortunately, but that it is what it is. Anyway, so the challenge is we don't necessarily want to play a game that can be compromised. You can't have any kind of fantasy game. I'm trying to stay away from the G word, but you can't have any kind of fantasy game where people are spending any amount of money and have it be compromised like this. So it's a really, gosh, I don't even want to say it's a bad look. And we were talking about it in the Discord, and I said, I feel like these are all different. There's certain challenges like the common essence challenge, not cool. Probably shouldn't be using common in the limited games anyway, but that's fine. But you definitely, that's a huge issue because it compromises the integrity of the game. You also shouldn't have lineups where I guess you shouldn't have the triple play promo that went down the way it did and the compensation was wonky. And you shouldn't have where people can farm and use unlimited amounts of energy to be able to put lineups together. Now, I don't know if this is just the extent of it, or if I list that card for sale, or however they're doing it. This might not actually be the way they're doing it. I don't know if me doing that essentially also would have given back energy, because I don't really have a lot of classic cards in here, so I don't know if that would have killed it and then given me energy. We were told that that loophole was closed. I don't know that anyone has tried it because most of us didn't even know it existed. And we also don't want to punt our lineups by trying it out. But at the end of the day, you cannot have a project, a daily fantasy sports project, where the integrity of the game is compromised. You just can't. It's dead on arrival at that point. And if this is what people are doing, then what I had said was, I feel like the energy and the swapping the lineups are actually two separate issues. The energy was a huge issue. Anytime there's potential for your daily fantasy game to be compromised, when people are paying to be part of it, that is a major issue. No matter how small the issue is, it is a major issue. the integrity of the game must always be paramount, always. So even the smallest of issues has to raise a red flag. Stop everything. This is happening. I don't want to hear about jersey launches. I don't want to hear about NBA. I don't want to hear about any of those things that are time consuming. You potentially have your game compromised. So just plowing through and going and just saying, okay, we'll deal with that later. You can't. I mean, legally, you also cannot do that. You need to shut down everything, address it, make sure all the loopholes are closed. There's no more leak in the ship, and then fire it back up. So I know that that's a really painful thing. And it could be, some people might even think that's an overreaction, but we're talking about a daily fantasy game with money. People are going to try to find loopholes. You cannot compromise the integrity of your game at any point. Any point cannot be compromised. So now, look, the triple play thing was a screw up. That sucks. Make sure you take care of your managers. Always, when you make an error, you always overcompensate the people impacted. Then you had the common issue. You had Weathers Gate. You have this energy issue, which has not been resolved. And you've got the community in an uproar about it. I'm so pissed off. I'm emailing the CEO in France. Like, I don't want to be that guy. I do not want to be that guy. But, and honestly, I shouldn't be that guy. The expression I always use is, I don't want to be the asshole. Don't make me be the asshole. Because you screwed up, now all of a sudden I have to be an asshole. That's not fair. Like, you're the asshole. You're the one who made the screw up. And by the way, I understand mistakes are made. It's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. What's important is understanding, admitting, learning from them, correcting them as soon as possible, because it is a daily fantasy sports game that people are paying to play. There is money involved. I cannot stress that enough. There are rules and regulations that do need to be followed. Screwing up energy and the way that it's been handled for 2 weeks has been abysmal. This is a put your belongings in a box, you need to leave the building type of issue. There was a massive issue with FanDuel and DraftKings where people were cheating the system. Employees were cheating the system. And I'm not saying that that's what's happening here, but we don't know. We don't know anything that's going on. We just know that the system has been compromised. What we do know is we've all spent a relative amount of money playing this game that is compromised. And that is a huge concern. So if Sorare had to shut it down for the weekend, obviously nobody would be happy, including myself. But if they did that and they sealed everything up and we started anew on Monday, I would be okay with it. Now, I know I'd probably get a ton of pushback on that, but at the end of the day, I need to know that this game is not compromised anymore. That's a really big thing for me. So otherwise, what are we doing? And Eagle points out, imagine if this was happening in NBA, and you guys know I was gone for a year. I haven't played NBA for 2 years, but they've been having daily games in NBA. And if this has been happening during NBA, or it starts happening in the NBA playoffs, that is a massive, massive issue. I mean, MLB is we're kind of like the stepchild, right? MLB and Sorare really wants to have that great relationship with the NBA. And the NBA obviously wants to have that great relationship with Europe. Massive legal issues. You have massive legal issues. The fact that this is happening in MLB, there are people in England and in France who play. I understand that it seems like U.S. regulations kind of get put by the wayside, but they're not in France and in England. This is a huge, huge issue. And yeah, like I said, it's a pack your box and get escorted outside kind of issue. I don't know if that's the director of programming in the US or in France or wherever that person is. But this is a massive issue, and it needs to be addressed swiftly. And there needs to be transparency and communication. So well, anyway, we'll see how it goes. This is an hour. I got through everything in a half hour, and then we tried this. We'll see. Let me refresh real quick, see if I have any points. Not that my team has actually scored anything, right? Okay, so I'm still at 0. We'll find out tomorrow if I still have 0. This is not my forte, trying to hack and cheat things, not my forte. But obviously there are people who are very good at this and much better than I am, and they've been taking advantage of the system in MLB and potentially in the NBA. So we need to get this wrapped up. I would definitely express your concerns on Twitter, express your concerns to in the Discord, email people, email Damien, email John, email Nicholas. Let them know, like, this is not okay. I'm concerned about this because these are high-level violations. We're talking about federal violations that are happening right now. So anyway, we'll see how it goes. Eagle said, I bet it's the new guy that scores that updates it. I'm not sure what that means. There's a new guy. Then the new guy's got to go. Somebody's got to go. At the end of the day, somebody has got to fall on the sword for this. So you cannot just compromise the entire game and then be like, sorry, happened. You can't do it. The energy thing was already too much. It was getting to fireable offense level. The guy that I bet the new guy that scores. It's the new guy that scores. Oh, okay. So interesting. Thank you for that. So what Eagle is proposing is that once Alec Thomas starts scoring, then I'll start getting points. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll talk about it in the Discord. I know Taylor did a test with this as well. I've done a test. Part of the reason I wanted to do it on stream is so you guys were all able to see it. I wasn't trying to hide anything. But we'll find out how it goes tonight. Ideally, it would show up, and then we could all know that was the issue. Like I said, I would be more than happy if they just shut down contests and got this thing right. I am not going to try to do it on, maybe I'll take a look and see if it's I'm able to also manipulate a bi-weekly contest. I did, and I think I'm probably not the only person who did this. I had a gray lineup at one point a couple weeks ago because Pablo Lopez got hurt. So I wanted to seal him and put him in my vault. And then it grayed out the lineup, and I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I kind of wonder if it would have been possible. It shouldn't be possible, right? If it would have been possible for me to insert somebody else there for Pablo. It shouldn't be because we can't like edit lineup like we're able to here. Like I can hit this button and I can change it. We can't do that in the bi-weekly, so maybe that's why it wouldn't work on those. But hey, just shut this thing down for a few days, get it right, maybe fix the rewards while we're at it, and get the bad users out of the way, and let's all play on an even playing field again. So I think that's all we want, right? We just want to be able to play on an even playing field. So if you beat me, you beat me. I can respect that. And if I beat you, you got to deal with it. So that's the way it goes. And that's the way it should be. Not this, well, I wonder if he swapped his lineup out late kind of thing. Because now I kind of want to look at a bunch of lineups and find out how many late guys they had play. Like, did they have any guys who played earlier in the day that didn't score well? Or, I don't know, right? Okay, anyway. NFL draft is happening right now. So I feel like it's a good time for me to shut it down. The Browns are trading the number 2 overall pick. I'll just say this before I get off. To the Jaguars. What? Hold on. Browns are trading the number 2 overall pick. This is from Adam Schefter of ESPN. A 4th round pick and a 6th round to the Jaguars. Jaguars are trading number 5 overall pick, 2nd round pick, and a 4th round pick. So I guess that means Greg, my guy. What's up, Zuby? I guess that means that the Jags aren't going to be picking that running back, right? It's probably his diamond Crocs that killed the deal. So anyway, let me wrap this up. First half hour, weekend preview, second half hour, viable concerns about if Sorare is compromised. Anyway, stay tuned. We'll find out, right? Okay, guys, make sure, hey, voice your displeasure. Twitter, Discord, email Damian, Nicholas, John, get it out there because they need to understand that this is highly problematic. All right, I'll wrap it up, guys. Good luck with the rest of your games today. Hopefully you guys win some fantastic rewards and best of luck on your teams this weekend. See ya.